Grain Elevator and Processing Society is hosting their annual GEAPS Exchange Conference at the Kansas City Convention Center, February 22nd through the 25th of 2025. GEAPS Exchange is the biggest and best show in the grain industry with more than 400 exhibitors and 45 hours of education. It is the best place to find grain handling and processing operation solutions all in one place. GEAPS Exchange brings together industry professionals from across the world to help build professional networks and connect with the products you need. Come walk the trade show floor, take part in live demonstrations, innovation stations, and see new equipment. Make valuable connections through a variety of fun and exciting social events. Early bird pricing ends January 28th. Learn more and register at jeeps.com/exchange. Coming up is a conversation I had with the leadership of the world's largest professional association dedicated to the advancement of the grain handling and processing industry. You'll find out from them what makes this network so special. We'll also discuss what they see as the leading challenges and opportunities facing the industry, and they'll give you great insights in the biggest and best show in the industry. And do you know where it will be held for the next 5+ years? You'll find out. And have you heard about the GEAPS Media Group? Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to our second show of Whole Grain. My name is Jim Lenz, your host and Director of Training and Education at GEAPS, where the mission of the Grain Elevator and Processing Society is about people and information and knowledge, and the mission of the industry is about feeding the world. Thanks for listening today and for joining the network of thousands of other grain handling and processing professionals across the globe taking strategic steps to grow professionally. The Whole Grain Show will give you the competitive advantage to win at work so you can make more of an impact. In today's show, we'll have a fun discussion with two amazing leaders of the organization. That's right. You'll get to hear not only from Steve Records, Executive Director of GEAPS and CEO of GEAPS Media Group, but also from Chris Blair. Shortly after this conversation was recorded, Chris was promoted to a new position at New Cooperative. He now serves as Western District Manager and oversees 5 area managers. New Cooperative has grown rapidly over the last 7 years, as they now have 800 employees at their 60 locations in the great state of Iowa. Congratulations to New Cooperative and congratulations to Chris Blair on his new role at New Cooperative. Now, with the new fiscal year comes new leadership. GEAPS was happy to announce in July of this year Chris Blair as GEAPS Board President. He's from the GEAPS Greater Iowa chapter and has been a member of GEAPS for 15 years. Wow, the year 2022 is certainly a special year for Chris. Today we welcome Steve Records, GEAPS Executive Director, and our new GEAPS International Board President, Chris Blair, to the show. It's great to connect. Thanks for being on the show. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Jim. Great to be here.
Thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be part of something like this.
Well, Steve and Chris, we're excited about using this new GEAPS podcast channel as an additional way for you to connect with our members, as well as many others in the grain elevator and grain processing industry. It's an opportunity to share your excitement about GEAPS and how we can best serve them, to allow our listeners to get to know you a bit and to add some perspective and positive spirit. Steve and Chris, I thought it would be neat to try something here. Could you share with our listeners a professional mantra or success quote that you live by?
There's a lot of people that know me and kind of my laid back demeanor. There's kind of a reason for that. One of the things I kind of go by is I learn to sit back and observe, and that not everything needs an immediate reaction. So that's kind of how, my demeanor is perceived, I guess. I do like to sit back and listen and come up with a decision or something by observing people and what they say. And usually immediate reaction isn't something that usually turns out well. So
yeah. So it sounds like you're not reactive, but very much reflective person.
If need be, I can definitely make a very quick decision. But, a lot of times I feel that that's my strong suit. So
very nice. Great to know that. And Steve?
So as a mantra, I probably really look towards always having progression, always having growth or movement. And whether it be personally or in relationships personally, or certainly in organizations, being able to, challenge the status quo, looking at how we can always develop more or grow more. And there's a speaker that I like to listen to, and an author. His name is Simon Sinek, and he did this TED Talk a long time ago, and it stuck with me a long time. And at the core of it, one of his quotes was, "People don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it." And when I think about how that applies to the places that I've been in my life, and certainly with GEAPS, it really speaks to the mission and values of what we're trying to do. And if we can create that culture about people are joining us because of why we are here, as opposed to what they're necessarily getting out of it, I think that's good for the entire industry, of course, GEAPS and our members.
That's very fitting and perfect for GEAPS and where we're headed. And that's what we're excited to talk about here today. But Chris, could you please share a bit of information about your current role at New Cooperative, Inc. and about your role as president of the International Board of Directors at GEAPS?
Okay. So currently I'm a Region 4 manager for New Cooperative. I oversee 6 different locations: Pomeroy, Palmer, Canoke, Litterdale, Lanesboro, and Glidden. I oversee the operations for all 6 of those locations. I've got 7 direct reports. I believe that there's 60 to 70, depending on the season, employees in my region. Take care of grain operations, agronomy operations, transportation. We do a lot of custom application. So working with rolling stock, and that's my day to day. Usually I'm pretty mobile most of the times. Otherwise, I base out of the Pomeroy location.
And how long have you been in the industry, by the way?
So I started back in 1998. So I've been in the industry for quite a while. I've been with New Cooperative for just about 9 years. December of this year will be 5 years in this role. I've been a location manager at a couple different other places too, but I feel like New's my home. So. And it's local. It's where I grew up in this area. So it's a good spot to be in.
That's wonderful. And also, we are grateful for you serving the leadership role for the board. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and about the board as well?
Currently, I am the international president of GEAPS. I've been involved with GEAPS 15 years. I've served 2 terms on the international board. I've been involved with the EPC from the beginning. CPOC, I was involved with that. Anything to deal with education. So, I've been around for quite some time. As far as GEAPS president role goes, being involved in all the meetings, leading some of those meetings, the International Executive Committee, going to chapter meetings and continue to bolster those meetings up. And that's one of my biggest goals is to get to 5 or 6 different chapter meetings, this next year. And I've been to a couple of them already, and excited to get around and see what other locations are doing, maybe some of the needs that they have, just help with any questions.
Wow, we appreciate your dedication to GEAPS and education and supporting those in the industry. And just you and other board members had a chance to connect with them early when I joined in the end of May, and we met in June. They have great questions. There's great support. It's just neat to see the overall sport and the love for GEAPS.
Yeah. And it's a very diverse group too. I mean, everybody has their own place within the board. We've got associate members now as part of our IBD, which is exciting, which is, something over the last year, Steve, that started. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to have, that perspective on the board and a vote that counts, which is huge, having their involvement, because the exchange, that's one of the biggest key things that we do. And, having their input is a huge thing. We've had quite a few exciting things happening, but that's over the last year, that's one of the bigger ones.
That's awesome. Steve, now here's an opportunity to connect with folks we know as GEAPS members, but from all over the world. Could you provide them some background?
Sure. So I'm the executive director at GEAPS, and I've been in that role for a little over 3 years. And I'm also the CEO of GEAPS Media Group, which is a for-profit subsidiary of GEAPS that publishes Grain Journal, Milling Journal, and a number of other publications within the industry and specifically within the grain handling and processing industry. So GEAPS, when I got to GEAPS 3 years ago, GEAPS is about 90 years old or over 90 years old, and it's certainly steeped in a lot of history. And I think one of the things that's part of my job with respect to the history, learn from it, but also look at how do we modernize the business of GEAPS and the associations. The association world changes quickly, and certainly over the last 3 years, it has changed very quickly, as most other organizations have as well. So how did we take a 90 some odd year old organization and make it modern and make it a place that a younger generation wants to be a part of and finds value in? So at the end of the day, my job is ultimately to grow the organization and work with Chris and the board in sort of identifying not just what we do this year or next 2 years, but what does the industry need in the next 5 to 10, and how can GEAPS play a role to fulfill those needs? Because that's where we really sit within the industry, is bringing people together where a rising tide will raise all boats. Competitors come together in GEAPS without being competitive, and they help each other. It's a very unique organization within our network. So looking at how we grow, looking at how we make a bigger industry impact, delivering member value, and ultimately fulfilling the mission of the organization, which is to advance training and education and knowledge throughout a global network of ag professionals. So the good news is there's an entire team of people that helps do this. The staff at GEAPS, the staff at GEAPS Media Group, the volunteer leaders like Chris and those on the board, and then everyone that's involved in any number of the committees we have, our sponsors, the people that really consume the services that we provide to. Everyone's a part of it. So that certainly helps. And I think our future is really bright.
I think our listeners would love to hear about the future of GEAPS, the excitement of what we have done to get to where we are today and what we think for the future. Can you expand on some of those things?
Well, I mean, I can kind of go from 1,000-foot level, and Steve can kind of chime in too. One of the bigger things Steve alluded to is the GEAPS Media Group. That's been since, 2 months old, Steve. We've been working on that for a little bit, but the GEAPS Media Group, working alongside with GEAPS, promoting the industry, doing the things that they used to do, but trying to figure out how we can work together at our mission. So we've got that going on. We're working on our web page that should hopefully launch here in, the next month. Our IMIS database, and expanding on our professional development as well. We've got some classes that we're rebuilding, retooling those to meet everyone's needs. We know that we've needed to do some updates for a while, and we're getting to that point. So I'm looking forward to a couple of those to come out here. Steve, you got anything else you could add?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we think about the future, I mean, at the core of GEAPS, it's our network. It's the people that join and engage in what we do. The Chris Blairs of the world, the people that work for Chris, the people that work for Chris's competitors, the suppliers and vendors that Chris buys from. And at the end of the day, it's that network that's sometimes difficult to quantify in terms of dollars or ROI. But through GEAPS, our members not only are able to improve themselves in their career, but they're also able to make and save money for their companies. So GEAPS is an organization that has a broad appeal. As I look to the future and in the conversations that we've had with the board, it's how do we deliver more on our mission? We have a great mission. We have a great organization, and we know we have a lot of value to provide. You heard Chris mention that he's the international president, and we are an international organization, but we're still very North American centric. And so as we look to the future, is there an opportunity for us to truly be more global? What does being more global look like, and how do we become more global and deliver value to someone that's sitting in the Indian subcontinent or in Australia? It's a very different proposition and delivery mechanism than someone that's sitting in Nebraska. So that's one big thing that we're looking at. How do we create additional relevant content that is going to be consumable every day? And so things like this podcast, and as we work with our members, content that people can write that will address needs or showcase a problem and a solution that other people can implement. So it's really just becoming a little bit more thoughtful, perhaps, in how do we address not only the day-to-day problems of our members and our member companies, but then organizationally, how do we continue to build our business and look for those areas that we can capitalize on opportunities.
Right. Well, and also on that too is, being a place where everybody knows that you can connect with somebody, whether it's an associate member that's trying to sell grain equipment as far as like conveyors and legs to fumigation, if you want to be able to talk to somebody, if you've got a problem with an employee, just being that connecting point and figure out a easy way for people to be able to do that.
We'll be back after a quick break.
GEAPS Training and Education Program is proud to release Introduction to Grain Operations. This new course is a multimedia version of what was known as GEAPS 500 with dynamic graphics, video examples, photographs, multidimensional illustrations, animations, and interactive exercises. This course is sure to prepare your teams for the work you need them to do. This is a great industry primer at a great price. For a limited time, GEAPS members may purchase the course for just $195. Non-members still save and pay just $295. For more information, visit jeeps.com. What I found very early on about our members is that although many of them may be competitors, they have developed this special bond of supporting each other and learning from each other. What makes GEAPS members so special to you?
I've said this before. I'll take Exchange, for example. Everybody gathers there once a year. And, outside the world, we are competitors. That's what we do. But when we come together, we try to do greater good, find better ways to be more efficient with our people. That's something that maybe we'll talk about later. But one of the biggest problems that we have in the industry right now is finding people. There's plenty of jobs out there within the industry, just trying to find the right talent for each role. We need truck drivers. We need people in operations. We need people that can run the scale. Just trying to find the right individuals to do those jobs. Technology can get you so far that at the end of the day, this industry needs quality people in order to do the job right.
And I would concur that people at the end of the day, is what makes GEAPS special. And I mentioned earlier that a rising tide raises all boats. And I think that's how people approach GEAPS, and especially those that are actively engaged into GEAPS and our chapters and the things that we do on a national and global level. I really do believe people take off their company hats and put on their GEAPS hat when they're involved with GEAPS and think about what's best for the industry. Our mission is all about people and knowledge. And so I think our members do take that to heart. And there's a number of anecdotes that surround the stories of GEAPS about people working together in GEAPS and then going outside and they'll compete in the market, whether they're grain companies or whether they're competing for a grain company business. But it's really that being part of something bigger than just your job or even your company. And that's what I think makes GEAPS special.
We all want to be successful. It's a great industry to be a part of. It's just trying to showcase, what we're capable of doing.
The great sentiment. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that is what makes GEAPS so special. Now, in any industry, in order to continue to grow and develop, there are challenges to overcome and opportunities to build upon. First, what are you seeing that our members are doing so well in the industry? Can you share some success stories or opportunities our members have really taken advantage of?
The first thing that comes to my mind, Jim, is, there are so many stories of people using the GEAPS network and their connections to solve a problem. And everyone shows up to work and there's a problem of the day. If you have a bucket elevator break, that's your problem that day. And who can you turn to ensure that it gets repaired properly? And there was one story that I heard not that long ago where a plant was flooded in Iowa, a place that really hadn't experienced any floods. And so a lot of wet commodity, trying to figure out how to dry it out, what to do with it. And there was no knowledge base of how to deal with that in Iowa. But through the GEAPS network, the gentleman made a couple of phone calls and within 20 minutes was connected to, someone else that had been at a number of plants down in the Gulf Coast and has experienced numbers of floods, and really kind of got a step-by-step. Here's what you do first. Here's what you do second. Here's what you do third. And so, that's one specific example of how the problem of the day was solved by a call or two within the GEAPS network. And that's what I really believe that we can do at GEAPS, which is, you are one phone call or maybe two away from having someone that has the experience that you don't have, or a solution to the problem that you just are facing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Great story. Chris?
So I kind of have somewhat of a similar story, but, through connections through GEAPS, not going to mention any names, but I one time had a person call me and say, hey, I know we're not competitors. We live in a different, 2 states away, but, is there any way that, we could work together on trying to share equipment? At this time it was raining down south and, they had a shorter window. So they needed some help with some application equipment. Even though it's not grain related, through GEAPS, we made that connection. It didn't happen to quite work out that time to where we could share back and forth, but that door's open, down the road, to try to make things work. There again, it was, short people. So just try to help one another out. But that was made, because of a connection through GEAPS. And there's many, many more, different examples and stories, but, troubles with grain dryers, it's an older grain dryer. They don't make them anymore. Who can I connect with? Same thing with conveying equipment, those types of things, just to be able to, if your first call, they can't get it, they will get you into the right spot because, they want to have a good reputation.
And I would even add to that too, that it's really about taking advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. You just really never know when a connection that you've had or someone that you've met or, some, education session that you took part in or presented on, you never know when that's going to come around full circle and someone that you met that you didn't know at the time, becomes part of a merger that your company's going through, or as Chris mentioned, you're looking for good labor and good talent, and you remember someone and you're able to connect and fill a need for your company. It's really creating more opportunities for you to make your own luck. Luck usually just doesn't happen. It's prepared people that are lucky, and I think GEAPS really helps people create more opportunities to make their own luck.
Someone who's hearing this for the first time is unaware of the Grain Elevator and Processing Society, GEAPS. I think what they're taking away from this is real simple. Being a member of GEAPS, being a family member of GEAPS means that you have just grown your network incredibly all across the globe. You have a problem. There are solutions that can be answered in short order. And it's about the people. It's about networking. It's about resource availability. And it's about training and education, of course, as well. At the same time, though, our industry, like other industries, has real challenges they are facing. What kinds of trends are you currently hearing from our members in regard to challenges? I know a big thing you mentioned already is related to quality workforce. You can expand on that, but other things as well.
Being short labor, trying to figure out ways to use technology better. Currently, we're working at putting like bin level sensors in some of our bins at some of our bigger locations. Having temp cables set up in that, trying to expand on that to where everything is on one web page. So you're not clicking through different things. So trying to help our people out that way. So they're not going up top in the middle of the night to measure a bin, trying to use the use of technology, and, everybody's trying to figure out how we're going to get everything done. You've got bigger equipment from the farmers that can harvest things, 10 times quicker than they could have 20 years ago. to be able to receive those things, corn and beans, commodities, at a pace at which, they're harvesting it. And so trying to build storage, receiving capabilities, those types of things. And you just feel like you can't do it quick enough. But, as an industry, we're doing our best to try to be able to do that. So that's probably one of the, bigger challenges that we face next to the labor situation.
And I would add, in addition to the labor and the technology, I think there's probably an infrastructure conversation, certainly on a global scale, where there are places where infrastructure doesn't exist like it does here in North America. But when you're looking at not just the roads and the rails that lead into the facilities, but how everything works together, thinking about, as Chris mentioned, how do you deal today with deliveries and commodities that are coming in to a plant that was built 60 years ago, that doesn't have the automation and almost is impossible to retrofit with the technology. So there's a lot of investment that is probably needed within the industry. Of course, it's very expensive to build new elevators. It's very expensive to build new railroad. It is very expensive for the infrastructure that exists. But that's something that I think will forever be a challenge too, is having the correct infrastructure to keep up with the demand and the needs into the future.
Well said. Now, you talked a little bit earlier about the GEAPS Exchange, but before we conclude, can you expand on that some more? The GEAPS Exchange, could you share some more insights on that, especially for someone who has never attended or heard of it before?
The exchange, it's one of those things, if you've never experienced it, you gotta come at least one time. All the hours of education that are available at your fingertips, 45-minute blocks, 2-3 times during the exchange. You've got expo pods in the corners of the expo hall. It's more of see, feel, and touch type thing. And those vary from year to year, depending on, what might be some of the hot topics for that year. Of course, the trade show floor. I mean, industry's biggest event as far as equipment, size of equipment, number of vendors that are there. Like I said, unless you've been there to see it, it's hard to describe. Being able to, we've talked about this before, making those connections with just about any vendor there. You walk up to a table and you feel like you're at home, like you've known them forever. It's just that camaraderie of everybody in that building. You just can't describe it unless you're there.
One thing that I've taken away from it is, it's as Chris mentioned, it's not just the largest show in the industry and all of the training, but it's really a collection and a congregation of professionals in the industry. It's not just for people who happen to work in the industry. It's for the professionals who have chosen this as their career. And whether you're in Chris's role, working for a co-op in Iowa, whether you're managing an export facility in Chile, or running, a flour mill in Malaysia, you can come and be part of the network of professionals within the industry. And then you do get to meet the other people. You do get to see all of the exhibitors and suppliers and vendors that are there willing and ready to not just help you in your plant, but educate you, because there's all the education that is formally, and then there's all the education that occurs while you're just talking to someone. So it really is a top-notch professional event that everyone does need to attend. And if you are a GEAPS member, it is free for you to get into the expo. And the good news is you can mark it on your calendars, because for the next several years, we will be in Kansas City at the end of February. So for the next, 7 years, mark it on your calendars. Kansas City, the end of February, that's where GEAPS Exchange will be.
That's awesome. So it's just for a short period of time, you're going to have conversations that you can't imagine. Many of them diverse. It's going to push you, yourself, your team, your organization forward. Great opportunity. Now, all right. I want to thank you again for connecting with our listeners. Steve and Chris, But to conclude, I'd like to start a sentence, and I'd love for you to conclude the sentence. Being a GEAPS member means, we'll start with you, Chris.
To me, it means having a connection with anybody in the industry. That's what's important to me, having those relationships and building upon those. That's what being a GEAPS member means to me.
Awesome. Steve?
Being a GEAPS member to me means being part of something bigger than just your own job or even your company. I think I mentioned it before, but the mission of our organization is about people and about knowledge and information. The mission of the industry is about feeding the world. And when you think about everyone's role, every company's role in that, it's something everyone can get behind and support. And so I think when you join GEAPS and you're active in GEAPS, it really does elevate your sort of level of consciousness about what you do every day and your role in not just your company, but the world that we live.
That is well said. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for serving as a guest on this episode of Whole Grain presented by GEAPS. It means a lot, and it's a great way for members and non-members, potential members, for those in the industry to connect and to learn about the leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What a treat to have Steve and Chris on the show. Thank you so much. I thought that was a good way to acquaint you with them and understand a little bit more about the leadership at GEAPS. Feel free to reach out to them and let them know what you think of the Whole Grain podcast so far. And I know they love connecting with GEAPS members and others in the industry, virtually or in person. There are always exciting things to talk about. Now, if you are not currently a member and are considering GEAPS membership, I strongly recommend visiting jeeps.com/membership. We offer individual membership and facility and company membership. And for a broad look on all that we have to offer to best serve you, visit jeeps.com. That's GEAPS.com. Have yourself a great day, and thanks for listening to Whole Grain.